This is the 20th episode of the Effective Executive Podcast. And this week I originally intended, actually, I'd recorded a video for and a podcast for the Taguchi loss function, which I found very challenging to do without visuals. Not say it can't be done. You have to be very descriptive in audio, and just better that I put it out on YouTube in a video. And I will do that. You can go to, it'll be coming out this week, but you can go to the 95method.com/YouTube, and that's my channel on YouTube. Or you can go to the actual playlist I'm putting in, this old versus new management thinking playlist that I'm putting in YouTube, which is you can go to the 95method.com/old versus vs new, all tied together. So also, if you're new to the podcast, and I like to mention this on occasion, is if you go to the 95method.com/effective playlist, this will give, there's 3 videos in there that'll explain to you what I mean by being an effective executive. It has meaning, it has definition. So that may be helpful to some that are new, and I've gotten quite a few new subscribers to both. Well, not so much to my YouTube channel yet, but more to my podcast. But this week, I want to talk about what was originally called commander's intent, and I like to use the phrase executive intent. So the first time I heard the words commander's intent was from I think it was a Harvard Business Review article, was talking about commander's intent. And the concept is very similar to Dr. Deming's, for those that are following me that are from the Deming community, of clean the table. So you have to understand the purpose. Commander's intent, obviously, more used in the military, that phrase. That's why I went with executive intent. But let's use an illustration of Dr. Deming's phrase of clean the table. You have to understand what the purpose is of cleaning a table. In other words, if someone asks you to clean the table, are you cleaning it because you're going to study on the table? Are you going to eat off of the table, or serve dinner on the table? Or are you going to do surgery on the table? Each one of those would require a little bit different type of method to clean that table for the purpose of which it's intended. And yes, that's my dog in the background. The commander's intent was originally World War II, was as a good example on D-Day on June 6, 1944. Basically, you had a lot of paratroopers that were jumping out of airplanes, and unfortunately, when they landed on the ground, they didn't land with their teams. And the plan was that certain teams would go and take bridges, intersections, key terrain, things of that sort. But they used the commander's intent that each of these soldiers, these paratroopers, knew that once they landed, that sometimes they had to form in different teams because of how far off they had been on where they had targeted to land on D-Day. And so they were dropped all over the place. And it makes me always think of the term, or the saying that Mike Tyson had, which is, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So that is kind of what happened on D-Day, but the plan failed, but was a success because they used commander's intent. So believe it or not, most executives don't think this way, and they use over control. They're over planned. They're micromanaging their employees. And when I say micromanage, I want to expand that definition. It's not just looking over somebody's shoulder, but it's the mandates, the rules, the scripts, the procedures that come from the hierarchy, the managerial hierarchy or the executive hierarchy, telling people on the front line what to do. And when they come into a situation where it doesn't follow the plan, a lot of people freeze because they know that, boy, if I don't, follow the procedure, then I'm going to get dinged, my next performance appraisal, let's say. And so it's becomes so important to use executive intent and identify what the purpose is. Now, most organizations, in my opinion, have the wrong purpose, and you may agree or disagree, but it is to make money. That's it. Versus do the right things that make money. In other words, if you're creating value for customers, if you're innovating into new products and services, then that is the right purpose. That will create the money, not just saying we need to make money, because then all the short-term things happen, right? Which are things like layoffs and cutting costs. I've seen many companies that go down to the end of the year. We got to hit our numbers, and nobody travels this month, and so salespeople don't travel, and then their numbers are down in January. It's doing the right things that make money, as opposed to just making money or so focused on making money. So executive intent, what are the right things to do, right? This is the effective executive piece. So again, for the new people, go to the YouTube playlist, understand what effective executive means. But part of it means that we understand what the right things are to do. Also, a second thing, that employees are trusted and trained and engaged in your organization. And it requires a few things in order to tap into this, which is you need a method for identifying by virtue of synthetic thinking, what are the right things to do, and designing an organization that creates employees that are engaged and trusted and trained in your organization. And then the third thing, which I'll be hitting upon pretty heavily this year, is innovation. If only a few people, specialists or experts or executives that are the ones coming out with innovations within the company, you got a problem, because you're not engaging the entire organization to participate. So this is what the executive education, the effective executive education program, is all about. If you don't have methods for understanding what the right things are to do in your organization, we got a method for that. If you don't know how to design an organization that builds trusted, trained, and engaged employees, we have a method for that. And also innovation. We have a method for that also. Doesn't mean that you don't, or that mine's better, but I have a method, and it becomes a good place to start. That's what I wanted to cover this week on this podcast. If you enjoyed this and you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe and hit the bell, and you'll be notified as new content comes out. I do put more content out on YouTube. And as far as this podcast, you can subscribe to the podcast also.